A lonely nerd and a delinquent baddie get together to fight aliens and ghosts after they get abducted and possessed. It all started on a regular day when the delinquent Momo got dumped by her gold digger boyfriend. Though he kicked her in the guts and cursed her for being broke before breaking up with her, this needy girl still gets depressed because he was her first ever boyfriend. Her best friends make fun of her, asking what the hell did she even see in that guy. She replies that he looked a bit like her favorite actor, and she always wanted an awkward masculine boyfriend like that. Her friends tell her that no one can afford a masculine boyfriend at this age when people don't even know their gender. Later, Momo drags herself through the corridors when she notices some boys bullying a poor nerd named Ken. Momo takes a seat next to the poor nerd and starts talking to him, and since the bullies don't dare to mess with her, they quickly turn their faces around. She then heads out with her pent-up stress reaching its limit, when suddenly, the nerd Ken comes there. He doesn't dare to face her, but yells that he knows Momo is in love. Momo tells him to come out of his Delulu world because, even though she is desperate, she won't fall for someone like him. However, what Ken means is that she fell in love with the content in his magazine that talks about UFOs and aliens. Momo tells him she's not interested in all those stupid conspiracy theories, but Ken is still persistent like a YouTube pickup artist. Momo tells him to shut the hell up because she doesn't have time for his yapping when she just got dumped. She tells him that he doesn't have any friends because he is a pushy nerd, leaving Ken stunned. Momo immediately realizes that she was a bit too harsh with him and picks up his book while apologizing. She tells Ken that she doesn't believe in aliens, but in ghosts, and he suddenly starts laughing at her. He says that just because she gets ghosted doesn't mean they exist. They start arguing about whether ghosts are real or aliens and decide to prove to each other that they are right. At night, Momo goes to a creepy abandoned hospital because according to Ken, that is the place where aliens abduct humans. On the other hand, she has sent Ken to an abandoned tunnel, saying that it is a spiritual hotspot with many ghost sightings. Ken is nervous, and as he heads closer to the tunnel, he feels the tunnel drawing him in. He asks Momo if she has ever seen a ghost. She tells him that she has not, but she is sure that ghosts exist because her grandma is a shaman, and she has learned all about ghosts from her. Because of her grandma, she always had to do a good luck ritual whenever she left the house and walked to the school while raising one finger above her head. Momo says she always felt odd doing that, and everyone made fun of her, so she got mad at her grandma for telling her to do something so stupid. That is why she had a big fight with her grandma and stopped doing the good luck ritual. However, she now understands that she was not mad at her grandma, but at the boys who made fun of her practices. She tells Ken that she was always proud of her grandma's unique job, and that is why she wants to believe in ghosts. Once she is done with her story, Momo asks Ken why he is into aliens. He tells her that he doesn't need a reason to like aliens, and she is fine with that. Just then, Ken sees some bloody footprints on the ground that stop right where he is standing. He immediately turns around to see if anyone is nearby, and to his horror, there is the ghost of an old hooker who tells Ken that she can give him a hawk tua for $2. Ken freaks out and starts running away from her while screaming. Momo asks what's wrong, and he tells her that he just ran into a lewd old woman, trying to convince himself that he didn't just see a ghost. Momo tells him to stop running because the old ghost called Turbo Granny will chase after him, and if she catches up to him, he will forever be cursed. She is too late in telling this because the ghost catches Ken almost immediately, and Momo only hears his screams before the call ends and her cell phone screen turns red. She thinks that Ken is in danger and rushes to help him when suddenly, the lights of the building go out, and 3 weird-looking people appear. Momo wonders what the hell is happening and tries to run away, but the 3 men catch her. When she wakes up, she is being held captive in a special chair. The 3 men tell her that they are aliens from the planet called Serpo, where only males exist and they reproduce through cloning technology. Excessive cloning messed up their evolution chart, and they have lost all their basic emotions, so they are on Earth to find females here to help them kickstart a new generation. One alien pulls out a massive mechanical schlong out of his pants, which makes her scream, but her struggles are useless as the aliens use their hypnotizing power to put her to sleep. However, just as they are about to take away her V-card, her cell phone rings. They all stop, and one alien goes to pick it up, and then suddenly, the granny ghost comes out of it and smacks him away. She immediately proceeds to bite the balls of the alien and sends him flying. It turns out Ken's body has been possessed by the ghost, and Momo is relieved to see him even in this form. She asks him if he can help her, but Ken loses control of his body to the Turbo Granny, and one of the aliens turns into a humanoid zebra to attack her. The Turbo Granny quickly dodges the attack and then destroys the alien's body. She attacks the last alien after that, but he uses a special attack to send her crashing into the wall. Ken suddenly gets some control of his body back, and he tells the aliens that he is willing to give them anything they want if they let the girl go. He yells that since he had no friends, he always wanted aliens to be his friends. He reached out to them countless times from his childhood, but they never came. He kept getting bullied by his classmates, and no one ever acknowledged him till Momo came along and treated him like a human. He declares that he won't let anything happen to her, even if he has to become a monster for that. He turns into a ghost again, but the alien immediately shoots him and forces him to return to being closer to a human. The alien decides to dispose of him because they don't have any use for males. He then begins manipulating Momo's brain, and as she resists, she remembers how her grandma used to tell her to release her kai from the top of her head. She wonders why she is remembering it now but decides to give it a shot. She tries to release her kai from the top of her head, and suddenly, the device holding her down shatters. No one can believe what just happened, but Momo finally realizes that her grandma was preparing her for this day the entire time. She feels her body overflowing with power and sends the alien flying with a kick, and he crashes into the moon, which was actually their spaceship in disguise. The things with aliens seem sorted, and Momo tells Ken that they should escape now. However, he is under Turbo Granny's control right now, and she attacks Momo. Momo tells her to let go of Ken, and with her power, she pushes the old ghost out of his body. However, Ken begins to squirm around in pain, and Turbo Granny says that she has control of his little banana, and as long as she has that, he will remain possessed by her. Momo tells her to return Ken's manhood to him at once, but Turbo Granny tells her to come to her tunnel so that they can have a fair match if she wants to save the boy. Turbo Granny flies away with that, and then the alien spaceship heads straight towards the building. It pierces through the building, and Momo somehow gets out safely with Ken. Later, she injects her kai into his body to keep him stable. They both realize that both aliens and ghosts are real, and now they have gotten too deeply involved with them. Ken asks how he can get free from this curse, and Momo tells him that they will need to beat the shit out of Turbo Granny to get her to free him. Ken says he will go there and work it out somehow and starts walking away. He takes off his shirt and pants and tells Momo to wear them and go home. She tells him that she can't leave him alone after all this, and he asks if she is sure. He says that he is just an awkward guy, and Momo suddenly feels a waterfall between her legs because Ken just recited a line from her favorite actor. She tries calming herself down and asks Ken for his name because she never got the chance to know it before. He replies that his name is Ken Takakura, which is the name of Momo's favorite actor as well, and her mind is blown away. She immediately starts throwing a tantrum because she can't accept that her favorite actor, who was the peak of masculinity, shares his name with this wimp. She begins rolling on the ground trying to forget what she just heard, and in the meantime, Turbo Granny begins getting control of Ken's body. He asks her to give him some spiritual energy quickly, and she frantically slams him into the wall with her power. Momo then says that they need to set down some rules if they are going to work together. The first rule is that neither of them will mention Ken's name, and she will call him Okarun because he was in the occult club. Ken has no choice but to accept this rule, and they head back to the city while bickering with each other. Soon, the sun rises, and Momo asks Ken to come to her home because he needs a shower and a fresh change of clothes along with expert help. However, as soon as they reach her house, she warns him to be prepared for anything because her grandma is really against her bringing boys home, and she almost killed her ex-boyfriend. Ken freaks out on hearing this, and then as he enters the gate, his body suddenly starts burning. Momo throws him into the nearby canal in a panic and then finds that there was a talisman warding off evil spirits on the gate that caused Ken to catch fire. This dimwit removes the talisman so that Ken can come inside, and only after that does she notice that he got a new hairdo after almost burning to death. She leads him inside the house and finds that her granny is not home, so she tells him to wait outside the room while she changes. However, the moment she stops supplying him with her kai, he begins turning into a ghost again and barges into her room. Momo uses her power to slam him into the wall and tells him to turn his face away while she changes. However, the moment she stops supplying him with her kai, he begins turning into a ghost again and barges into her room. Momo uses her power to slam him into the wall and tells him to turn his face away while she changes. When she is done, she gives Ken some of her old clothes to wear in the meantime, but he is still too shy about being in a girl's room. Then suddenly, Momo asks him if what Turbo Granny said earlier means that he's literally like a Ken doll down there. Ken immediately goes to the side to check it out, and to his horror, he really has lost his manhood. He freaks out, but Momo teases him, asking him to show it to her. Ken blames her for this because she was the one who challenged him to go into the tunnel, and she replies that he was the one who came to her first with the occult stories. Ken goes silent on hearing this and then admits that he was desperate about talking to her because he thought that they could be friends. He says that it was just his wishful thinking, and now he realizes that they are too different from each other. He apologizes to Momo for dragging her into the danger and tells her to ignore him once this case is resolved. Momo gets upset at this and tells him that if he keeps shoving people away like this, he will never have any friends. She goes close to Ken and begins poking him to get a reaction, and he suddenly calls her ugly. Momo snaps at this and grabs him by the collar, and Ken says that she has no tact and her words hurt his sensitive heart. While they are fighting, the doorbell suddenly rings, and Ken says that Momo's grandma must be back. She just tells him to stay quiet because their doorbell doesn't sound like this. She suddenly remembers that her grandma once told her that they have two doorbells. One of them is for humans, and the other is one for evil spirits, and one of them is right outside their door. Momo freaks out as she realizes that the evil spirit entered their property because she took the talisman from the gate, and she decides to place it back to ward off the evil spirits. She tells Ken to wait outside their boundary till her grandma gets home, but just as they go outside, the sky turns dark, and then suddenly, the house and the garden are suddenly enclosed by thick stone walls. Ken and Momo freak out because now they are trapped inside and can't put the talisman outside the gate because the gate has been fused with the walls. Suddenly, they start bleeding from their nose, and Momo looks around to find the cause and sees a giant monster hanging upside down over her house. It calls them evil people who broke their promises and tries to punch them, but Momo pushes Ken away from danger, and the monster's punch hits the talisman and the wall. The giant sumo spirit chases them while demanding Ken to give him his banana, making Ken wonder where all this demand for his member was all his life before this day. He then says that the monster chasing after them is not a spirit, but an alien called the Flatwood Monster that has been sighted all over the world before. He believes that the doorbell that senses evil spirits got triggered by the alien, and there must be some similarity between the two. Meanwhile, the giant alien begins spewing poisonous black smoke from its mouth, and Momo says that if they don't do something about it, they will die. Suddenly, things become even worse as Turbo Granny begins taking control of Ken again, and while Momo tries to subdue her, the alien attacks them, destroying the house. They run away and take shelter in a storeroom where Momo manages to push the ghost back, but Ken's left hand still remains cursed. Momo tries focusing and dispelling the curse of the granny ghost entirely, but then Ken gets an idea. He asks her to let the curse take over him, because he can use that power to fight against the alien. Suddenly, the alien finds them and destroys the storehouse, and they barely make it out alive. Ken asks Momo to just release the curse on his body and keep the curse on his mind under control so that he can fight properly, and she tells him that she has not mastered her powers to that level. She still tries her best, and as the monster sends another shockwave towards them, she succeeds in giving Ken what he wants. He can now control his power fully and evade the attacks thanks to it. Momo is impressed, but to her shock, Ken has become a lazy and depressed person in this form. Just like me, but with superpowers. He drags himself towards the alien and just stands there as the alien smashes him with a clap. However, Ken dodged the attack at the last moment thanks to Turbo Granny's power and also tore away the alien's fingertips. Momo is confident that they can win, but then suddenly Ken coughs blood and loses his powers. The alien smashes him into the ground, but before he can do anything else, Momo pulls Ken back. He apologizes that he failed to use the power of Turbo Granny because his body couldn't handle it. He freaks out, wondering how they can defeat the alien monster, when suddenly, Momo gets an idea. Since the alien is using sumo moves, she thinks if they get its hands to touch the ground, it will be defeated as per the rules. Ken tells her that she is a goddamn genius and gets ready to attack the alien once again. With Momo's help, he enters his superpowered mode again and charges at the sumo alien, tearing through its leg with great speed. Momo finishes the job by using her power to force the alien to the ground, and just as its hand touches the ground, it melts. However, the alien has got some crazy core strength, and it does a backflip to get on its feet before its second hand touches the ground. It then grabs Momo and punches her against the wall, and the curse begins to take over Ken's body. The curse suddenly stops, and the confused Ken looks at Momo, who is still fighting back despite taking serious blows from the alien. She taunts it, calling it a cheater who keeps fighting even after touching his hand on the ground, and the alien begins pummeling her. Ken screams at her to let him fight, but Momo eats up all the punches till she is in a crater in the wall. Once she is confident that the depth is enough and she is out of the plot, she pulls Ken towards her and then puts the talisman back on the gate, reinstalling the protective field that burns away the alien. Momo hugs Ken tightly so that he remains out of the protective field, and after a few seconds, as the alien is completely disintegrated, everything returns to normal. Momo is overjoyed that they won, but then suddenly, she loses consciousness because of using too much energy. Ken tries to reach her, but then the Turbo Granny takes over his body. Turbo Granny lifts Momo up when suddenly a wooden brick and a nail hit her head and send her flying as Momo's granny Seiko, a total gilf, comes there. She says that she thought that her granddaughter brought another loser home, but this time, he is not even human. Turbo Granny immediately attacks the gilf from behind, but she has a protective barrier around her that burns the ghost before she can touch her. Seiko knew this is how things would play out, and just as she calculated, the ghost is already in a barrier she has set up. The ghost tries to attack her, but the barrier sets her on fire as soon as she touches it. Momo's grandma begins smashing Turbo Granny, but not in the way you all want to smash her. She beats the ghost with her bat to exorcise it, but Turbo Granny warns her that if she kills her, the boy she is possessing will also die. Seiko says that she doesn't care about that, and it will be better for her if the boys in Momo's life just vanish. She creates another circle around the barrier and then erases the first one a bit, burning the ghost. Hours later, Momo finally wakes up in her room, and the first thing she thinks about is Ken. She runs downstairs where her grandmommy is rewatching Friends like she used to do in her youth. Momo asks her if she saw a boy with glasses, and her grandma asks her if she sent the boy to a spiritual hotspot. Momo affirms and then asks what happened to Ken. Seiko says that she destroyed the evil spirit, and Momo freaks out. Suddenly, Seiko changes her attitude and brings up the grudges from the past when Momo told her that she was a fake and ghosts aren't real. The frustrated Momo bows down to her as she apologizes and asks her what she did to Ken. Her grandma tells her to head to the main shrine, and Momo curses her as she runs towards the shrine, thinking that she will find Ken's ashes there. She begins to blame herself for this because Ken just wanted to make friends, and she got him cursed. However, when she opens the door of the shrine, Ken is peacefully eating rice. He gets really relieved to see her because he thought he harmed her, but Momo shuts the door in his face because she suddenly realizes that she was worried about this nerd. After she curses him for being alive, she finally feels relieved, and just then, Seiko comes there. She teases Momo for being so desperate earlier and asks if she likes nerds. Momo tells her to snap it, and then Seiko says that she locked Ken in the shrine so that Turbo Granny doesn't take control of him. Momo tells her grandma that Turbo Granny took Ken's ding-dong, and she is responsible for it, so she wants to beat Turbo Granny, get Ken his tool back, and end things happily. She also tells the girl about meeting aliens and awakening her psychic powers, but Seiko doesn't believe in aliens at all, and she has only heard about the existence of psychic powers. She tells Momo to forget about Ken ever becoming normal, because Turbo Granny is a powerful ghost that has been around for centuries, and to make matters worse, it seems that there was another powerful ghost in the tunnel that she recently moved into, and the two ghosts had fused together. Seiko says that the tunnel is the ghost's domain, and in the past when she tried to exercise it, she could not enter because the spiritual pressure there was extremely strong. That means defeating Turbo Granny is impossible as long as she is in the tunnel, and Momo would die if she tries to fight her. Despite the risk, Momo wants to take responsibility and help Ken, so her grandma tells her the only way to win. She needs to challenge Turbo Granny to a game of tag and take her out of her domain, which is unfortunately the entire city. If they can bring Turbo Granny out of the city without being caught, she will become quite weak, and then they can defeat her. Momo panics on hearing that because she knows that she won't be able to outrun that monster. But Seiko says she was not talking about her anyway. She opens the door and tells Ken that he needs to beat the old ghost in a race. Ken says he has terrible stamina and can't even sustain the superpower mode for more than a few seconds, and Seiko tells him to begin training immediately. She tells him to follow the One Punch Man training routine and carry Momo on his back while running so that she can control the curse from overtaking him. She tells Momo to level up her psychic powers as well, and she is going to train them both starting tomorrow. The next morning, Ken finds himself in a troublesome situation as he needs to attend to nature's call urgently. But if Momo isn't watching him all the time, she can't subdue the Turbo Granny. Seiko simply tells her to watch him while he relieves himself, but both Ken and Momo say that it is not their kink. That suddenly makes Seiko question how Momo is even controlling the curse. Momo explains that she can see an aura around everything, and when she crushes the ghost's aura that is around Ken, she can keep him normal. She says that right now her power is limited to grabbing the aura of other things and moving them around. But the moment she awakened her power, she felt like a literal god. Seiko advises her to close her eyes and feel the aura with her body because that will make her better at using her power. Momo tries doing that and feeling the aura around her with her skin, but that doesn't work and Ken transforms. When Momo turns him back, he is already at his limit and runs to her house so that he can relieve himself. Momo chases after him to stop him from transforming, and Seiko tags along just to see what happens. In the end, Ken has to face the biggest humiliation of his life as Momo watches him while he drops a log in the toilet. As Seiko asks Momo more about her power, suddenly, Turbo Granny appears in their house through Ken. Momo calls to her grandma for help, but she is unable to move and is bleeding through her nose and ears. Turbo Granny tells Momo that she can curse anyone who Ken sees, and she can easily kill Seiko if she wants. However, she wants to have some fun, and that is why she tells Momo to come to the tunnel tonight to fight her if she doesn't want everyone Ken sees to die. She vanishes with that, and Momo tells Ken and Seiko everything that happened. That night, Ken and Momo wear ceremonial dresses to fight Turbo Granny and wish them all the best. They take the train, where Momo takes off the ceremonial dress to wear her usual clothes instead, because she doesn't care about protection as long as she looks good. Ken and Momo reach the tunnel and Momo says that maybe they shouldn't bother trying to drag Turbo Granny out of the city and defeat her right here. She says that they were able to defeat the giant sumo alien, and the Granny Ghost is nothing compared to that. Just as she says this, they find that their path has been blocked by a giant head that seems to be straight out of Attack on Titan. They freak out, but to their horror, another head is blocking the path on the other side. Momo is grossed, but Ken tells her to stop being distracted and release the power of the curse on him so that he can transform. She does so, and he turns into the lazy and unmotivated superhuman, who walks towards the demon head to destroy it. Then suddenly, his power vanishes and Ken panics, asking Momo to do her job properly. But she is the one who is more worried because she can no longer see his curse. Turbo Granny suddenly speaks up, saying that she returned Ken's weenie to him because she understood that they were using her power to their advantage, and now he is no longer affected by her curse. Both the mouths attack them together, and just as they are about to be eaten, Momo recalls her grandma's advice to taunt Turbo Granny about her speed, because she is easy to rile up. Momo suddenly yells at the old ghost, asking her if she is afraid of losing to them in a contest of speed, which is why she is going to kill them with brute force. She mocks her, saying that she doesn't deserve the name Turbo Granny, and the ghost suddenly appears in her normal form to accept the challenge and asks her the rules of the game. Momo says that they are playing tag, and she wins if she catches them, but only after she has counted for 10 minutes. Turbo Granny accepts the rules, and as she starts counting, Ken and Momo run away at full speed. However, the old ghost is a cheater, and she counts down to 10 minutes and 20 seconds and then begins chasing after them. She grabs Momo with her power and then encases her in a prison of meat. And as Ken tries to free her, Turbo Granny walks up to him and says she is going to count 10 minutes for him now. He says that it is cheating, but Turbo Granny says that Momo never specified how to count 10 minutes. She doesn't give Ken any time to react as she finishes his countdown as well. But right as she is about to touch him, Ken jumps at her and bites her with full strength. Turbo Granny can't free herself because of the ceremonial clothes Ken is wearing, so she decides to possess him first and then rips off those clothes. She thinks she should eat Momo and finish things quickly, but then suddenly, she is unable to move. The moment Turbo Granny possessed Ken, Momo could sense her aura, and she crushes her with her powers. Turbo Granny fights back and attacks her, but Momo manages to subdue her power, and Ken misses the attack at the last moment. They are happy because they have reduced Turbo Granny to a small snake. But then suddenly, the evil spirit of the tunnel begins attacking them and demands them to return Granny. Ken and Momo run out of the collapsing tunnel, but the evil spirit follows them by traveling through the roadside. It suddenly bursts out of the roadside in the form of a crab, but luckily, it is stupid and gets easily distracted. Ken asks Momo to let him transform, but she finds that incredibly hard because now the real body of Turbo Granny is inside him. She manages to control Turbo Granny's power and Ken transforms right as the crab is about to hit them. They run away at full speed, but Ken can't turn around a corner and jumps off the cliff instead. Momo begins screaming in his ear that they are falling, so he uses his full power and twists his feet like the blades of a helicopter because physics and anatomy don't apply to him. He manages to slow their fall and lands on the ground safely, but then suddenly, the crab spirit jumps on them. Momo is thrown into the air, but she freaks out as she sees dozens of faces on the evil spirit's back. She gets on Ken's back as he begins racing through the town, and people begin clicking their pictures because they think they are stupid. Momo realizes that no one can see the spirit crab, and even Ken appears normal to them. He tells her to stop worrying about small things because he is about to run out of gas. Momo comes up with an idea, and she directs Ken to a hot spring. The crab crashes into the building as it chases after them, and then Momo pours hot water on it, thinking that it will cook it, and they will be saved. Somehow her random bullshit go method really works, and they immediately resume running out of the town. Suddenly, they see a huge group of people running towards them, but only after they come close do they see that they are all zombies controlled by evil spirits. They begin running in opposite direction, and Turbo Granny laughs at them, saying that she borrowed help from some spirits at the local cemetery to stop them from going outside. They suddenly find themselves surrounded on all sides, and even the crab is back in action. Momo tells Ken to go full throttle, and he says that it won't help them get out of the city. She tells him to trust her, and turns him into his superhuman form. Turbo Granny says that she has won, because Ken can go full throttle only once since he used one charge on the helicopter move. Momo gets on his back, and Ken dashes ahead at full speed. Momo clears his path using her power and uses it to swing across the buildings like Spider-Man. They cross the horde of zombies, but the crab is still in front of them. Momo yeets a car at it, and then Ken runs over it and leaps over the building behind. Momo corrects their direction by swinging from a pole, and they can see the train that leads out of the city, but then Ken returns to normal. Momo uses her force ability as wings to slow them down and also helps Ken transform once again so that he can help them land safely. However, as they hit the ground, Ken loses consciousness after reaching his physical limits and Momo can't do much either. She tries to wake him up and then suddenly notices that she let go of Turbo Granny during the landing. To her shock, Turbo Granny and her army of spirits is right in front of them, and she fuses with a crab spirit to kill and eat them. She taunts them, asking if they plan to challenge her again, and says how long do they want the countdown to be this time. Momo suddenly says that she only needs 1 second to get away from a slowpoke like her. Just then, a train passes overhead, and she grabs it with her power, getting on it and away from the ghost army. Turbo Granny chases after her and gets on the train, saying that she has nowhere to run now. Momo says that is her line, and grabs her with her force hands as the train nears the boundary of the city where Seiko is lying in wait to finish the job. Turbo Granny strains to reach Momo, but the train crosses the city boundary and enters the barrier erected by Seiko just then. The power of the barrier burns Turbo Granny and the crab, and the spirits that were inside them are released as they turn to ash. Soon, the train stops at its final station, and Momo drags Ken to the platform, and he wakes up with his mind still in the middle of the battle. Soon, Seiko comes there to receive them, and they go to the tunnel to pay respect to the girls who were violated and killed there, and then turned into evil spirits because of that. Seiko says that shamans like her have chased after Turbo Granny for a long time, and she always was found near places where spirits of girls who were tormented were present. She says that maybe Turbo Granny just wanted to support them, but humans and ghosts should not intervene in each other's business if they want to exist peacefully. After that, they return to Momo's home, where Seiko and Momo begin fighting over crab meat, but Ken can't eat anything after everything they have been through. He soon gets ready to go home and Momo tells him that she will see him tomorrow, making him realize that he now has a friend. The next morning, Ken hides behind a pole as he prepares himself mentally to say good morning to Momo. However, as he reaches the school gate and finds Momo waiting there, he suddenly starts getting cold feet. He thinks that she might be waiting for someone else, so he meekly ignores her, but she bumps into him and tells him that he is too late. She keeps talking about the aliens that kidnapped her, and Ken keeps listening because he still can't believe that a girl is talking to him. However, as soon as he reaches the class, he gets treated like crap by everyone as always, but Ken decides to forgive them all because he is in a good mood today. On the other hand, Momo is totally dazed out, and even when her friends shine mirrors at her, she doesn't react. They are worried about her because she didn't reply to their texts and didn't even come to school yesterday. They think that maybe she went back to her loser ex, who rejected her again, and now she is heartbroken. Momo sighs and lies down on her table, and her friends think that she is about to cry. But in fact, she is just trying to suppress the urge to talk about aliens with Ken. He too feels the same and blames himself for being a wimp and not being able to answer Momo's questions this morning. They patiently bide their time and, during lunch break, head to each other's classrooms that are right next to each other. But because of the huge crowd, they pass each other. They try to check the cafeteria and the snack distribution on not finding the other in the classroom, but timing is a bit, and they miss out on each other once again. They sit on benches on either side of a corridor and begin thinking that maybe their friendship isn't going to work out. Ken fears that Momo must have realized that he is a boring loser, and she feels that he must be irritated by her because she was too eager and impatient. They begin heading back to their classes with their heads down in disappointment and clash right in the middle of the corridor, sharing a very short accidental kiss. They freak out because of the accident, and then realize that they were searching for each other this whole time while thinking that the other one was avoiding them. The situation becomes really awkward, and Momo tries to change the topic when suddenly, her friends who were watching them the entire time speak up. They say that Momo and Ken kissed right now and ask her if this guy is her rebound. Momo panics on hearing that and says that she will never kiss a four-eyed nerd like him, and Ken claps back, saying that he will never let a bitch with a nasty attitude kiss him either. They begin yelling at each other and say that they don't want to see each other again. They go to their classrooms, but Momo's friends totally ship them. Ken goes to the toilet to relieve himself, thinking about how he is going to apologize to Momo for this, but as he opens his zip, he finds something very wrong with his tools. On the other hand, the girls in Momo's class have surrounded her, and her friends are telling them that they just saw her kissing a cute nerd. Momo gets flustered as she tells them that it is just a misunderstanding, and then Ken enters her class, panting and sweating. He tells Momo that he needs to talk about something very important with her in private, but she dismisses him, saying that she doesn't want to. The girls begin teasing Momo for being too cold to her boyfriend, and she tells them to shut up because there is nothing going on between her and the nerd. She says that she doesn't feel like talking to him, and Ken gets upset. He asks Momo if she is embarrassed of being his friend, and then quietly goes back to his class since she doesn't even reply. After the school ends, Ken begins heading out, wondering if Momo is still angry with him. He accidentally bumps into a pink-haired girl who apologizes and asks him if he is fine. Ken kind of freaks out at this because the girl is pretty and is treating him nicely, and as she begins getting more friendly, Ken feels his heart pounding rapidly. At the same time, Momo comes there, feeling bad about hurting Ken during the day. She plans to apologize to him, but when she sees him with the pink-haired girl, she gets jealous and thinks that he lied to her about not having any friends. The pink-haired girl leaves Ken after her friend comes there, and they start talking about how dumb Ken was to fall for her acting. They talk about how virgin nerds like him don't even get a chance to talk to a girl, and it is fun to see them mistake the kind actions of a random girl for interest. Momo gets pissed at this, so she makes a tub fall on the bitch's head with her psychic powers. Ken appears worried for her, but then Momo suddenly clings to him, cheerfully saying that they should go home together. He is confused about what is happening, but Momo just gives the pink-haired girl and her friends a side-eye as she takes him away. After that, Momo apologizes for her rude attitude during the lunch break and says that she was embarrassed about the accidental kiss and not about being friends with him. Ken is touched by her apology, but then suddenly, he remembers that there was something more important he wanted to discuss. Momo asks what it is, and Ken tells her that his balls are gone. Momo immediately takes him to her house, where she can't stop laughing while Ken explains the problem to Seiko. He says that when his sausage returned, he thought everything was well and didn't notice that his eggs had vanished. Seiko is disappointed that he realized it so late and then says that she will take a look at it. Ken freaks out because he isn't showing his junk to her, but Seiko says that she is going to look into his soul. She arranges a tub filled with water in which Ken dips his feet, a doll with a talisman placed on it, and a regular mirror. She then takes a fan and smacks Ken while insulting him, and he freaks out because that was not what he thought she was going to do. He thinks that she is just messing around with him, but when Seiko smacks him a second time, Momo says that she saw Ken's aura move when she hit him. Seiko is certain that the aura is not Ken's, but of some other entity that is hiding inside him. She tells Momo to pull it out the moment she hits Ken again, and both of them get ready. Seiko smacks Ken, and Momo pulls out the aura inside of him, but it slips from her hands and vanishes. She freaks out that she let it go, but Seiko points towards the doll and the talisman. The talisman burns, and the spirit that was inside Ken finds itself in the doll suddenly. The doll runs away before Seiko can catch it, but Momo finds it by sensing its aura. She grabs the dolls with her power and then opens the door to find them flailing on the floor and cursing them. The doll says it will kill all of them, and Seiko realizes that it is Turbo Granny. Momo and Ken are shocked because Turbo Granny was defeated in their last fight. Turbo Granny says that she is not going to die at the hands of amateurs like them and explains that the moment her body hit the barrier and started burning, she changed to spirit form and possessed Ken's body. She had no spiritual energy, and she was waiting for it to build up so that she could have her revenge. Ken says that she can't do it now and threatens her with a talisman as he asks her to return his balls. Turbo Granny laughs, saying that if he kills her, he won't get them back, and if he wants them, he should kill the two women. Ken gets furious at her, and in his rage, he suddenly transforms into his superhuman form. Everyone is shocked by this, and they wonder how Ken can transform if Turbo Granny is no longer inside him. Seiko realizes that Turbo Granny was trying to hold on too tightly to Ken when she hit her with a fan that expels evil spirits from people. So only her consciousness was thrown out, and her power is still within Ken. Seiko says that they have the advantage now because only she can put Turbo Granny's consciousness into something other than a doll. Turbo Granny freaks out, and Seiko begins smacking her left and right with a fan. Ken turns to normal quickly, and Turbo Granny runs out, but Seiko chases her and begins thrashing her again. Momo calls for a truce and tells the old ghost that she doesn't really hate her because of her sympathy towards the girls who were wrong. She offers to return Turbo Granny's powers if she returns Ken's marbles. Turbo Granny accepts the deal but says that Ken's precious family jewels aren't with her because she dropped them somewhere. She takes them to a park, where she tells them that Ken's marbles are covered by her spiritual energy, so they appear like solid gold balls with 2-inch diameter. Ken and Momo frantically search for the balls but don't find them, and Momo throws shade on him, saying that they possibly can't find such small things. Turbo Granny is relaxing and says that maybe some spirit or monster already took them. She explains that Ken's marbles were full of life energy, and spirits love collecting things like this because they believe that collecting life energy can turn them back into humans. Momo panics because it means finding the balls is even harder and asks Turbo Granny for help, but she tells them that it sounds like a you problem. Momo and Ken get angry at this and begin stomping on her. The next day, as Ken enters his class, some guys immediately get friendly with him, asking if he is dating Momo. Ken says that he is not, and they ask him to hook them up with Momo because she is a smoking baddie. Ken finally realizes that Momo is pretty because this entire time he was so happy about finding a friend that he didn't notice. He then suddenly begins punching himself to get the impure thoughts out of his head, when suddenly, the boy says that they have heard that Momo just lets anyone sleep